Hello and welcome to the Wednesday check-in here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is December 11th, 2024. Now we are in the Thursday candle. Of course, I record this after the close of day, but it's still Wednesday for me. And we do have a slight bit of expansion going on here on Bitcoin on the daily. And we're going to talk about what we talked about on Monday, and that is the criteria for full expansion to the upside and possible resolution of this compression with expansion to the downside as well. Now, Bitcoin structurally, in terms of trend, is up still. So we have higher highs, and we now have a new higher low. In fact, this is not just a swing higher low, but a closing higher low as well. We had the open on Monday coming in at 101,175. We have the close of Wednesday's candle coming in at 101,193. So we have set a new higher low. This comes on hidden bullish divergence. So there is a drive of hidden bullish divergence from this low back here on the 17th of November. And that's going to be this higher low right here. And we're seeing, that the bulls push back on this little bit of a shorter term time frame downtrend. And, we're looking for resolution probably fairly soon. As for exact dates, that remains to be seen. But there is some very specific criteria to note on when that full-on expansion will occur, either to the upside or the downside. And in this case, we can zoom in again and just kind of go through some of the stuff that we've talked about in the past, but it pays to look at again here. We have the closing all-time high now is the Wednesday candle. So this 101,193 is now the closing all-time high for Bitcoin. And we have, of course, the actual all-time high on a swing basis or wick basis, and that is coming in at $104,000 for Bitcoin. Still really cool to actually say that, huh? We had been waiting for this for so long. Now, in this case, this is going to be our green zone to the upside. We see that the actual upper second standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands here, that is where we need to see closes above in order to kick off more aggressive expansion of price volatility here as it relates to the bands. But we still need to meet the criteria of closing above the all-time high. So closing above the upper second, we need to see the additional criteria of closing above the all-time high to kick off that more aggressive expansion, likely the next expansion phase for Bitcoin here, much like what we saw back here, where Bitcoin was in compression, closed above the upper second and even the upper third, breaking above all of the resistances, and then getting that beautiful expansion up to the current zone. Now to the downside, we see the lower second is still hanging around the wick low of the candle that put in the all-time high, a very volatile day, a $12,000 candle in this case for this Thursday the 5th, and that is the 5th of December. We have the close open down here. This is a higher low structure. So we have this higher low over here at 95,862. So basically 96K. With the higher low swing there coming in at 93.5, almost 93.6. And then we have another higher low just below there that did get front run on this big candle that put in the all-time high at $104,000. So this is going to be the area of interest to the downside. You can see it's also this high over here from this candle, which is, this consolidation structure. We did get a little bit of a swing high to swing higher low here that put in a closing higher low. So again, more higher lows to pay attention to should Bitcoin fall through this lower second. But the main area to pay attention to right now would be essentially, these highs right here to the actual higher low structure here coming off of that consolidation. And that would be bearish if Bitcoin started to close below there. That does mean that Bitcoin's likely to test more of this consolidation structure, and we have to pay very close attention to that $85,000 wick low of the first big bear candle after the expansion. So And it actually wasn't that big of a bear candle, but in the context of that daily, it was pretty volatile. And we can actually paint this or fill this zone as a red zone here between this close and this wick low. Change that to red. And now we've got, some pretty clear areas. Now, a warning that Bitcoin is going to likely go down and, test this wick low into this red zone at around $91,800 to $92,000. And in fact, we'll fix this and put that on that wick high. So it's right around $92,000. This is also a low right around 90,700, coming in just shy at 90,682. We have a close open right here at $91,000. This was the close open high here in that area before putting in this higher low structure that moved up to just shy of $100,000. So the warning that Bitcoin is going to go down and test that area would be any closes back below around 94,220. That's where we would likely see a test into that lower second standard deviation and possibly the red zone. That lower second standard deviation is at 92.5. So right around 92.5 to $90,000 would be the initial area of interest. See how price acts around that area and the high volume low over here, which I haven't quite shown, but in lower term timeframes, this is a very high volume area on this big candle that put in the high and the low thus far for the past week or so. Now, anywhere below there, I would look for expansion into this area of support. Now, this area was resistance, and we have seen it as support, once and twice upon being tested. And, this is a valid test into this high side structure and this high side close open area over here with the swing high there. So, a retest of that area, I would look at it as support again. But if we do start to see it lost, we need to identify, this low over here as being pretty critical, and that is at 88,700 or so. Anywhere below there, you can look to the close open here at 87,340 to $85,000, but not really relevant for where price is trading at this particular moment. Price is trading right into the overhead resistance. Now, if it can break this, I would be looking for, closes above that upper second to start heading in and testing the $104,000 area, maybe even higher, but we still need to see closes above there to kick off expansion to the upside. And to the downside, if we were to see expansion down through, this 88,700 area, there's still, an area of interest over here to pay attention to. Again, around that close open at 87,340 to $85,000. That's kind of like the line in the sand there at 85. But we would be looking for expansion into support. If that broke down, we're looking for a deeper correction, likely to retest some of the structure over here, from the breakout, 73 to 75, where we've got a little bit of a pit stop on the daily and the lower term time frames, all the way down into, the $70,000 area at the top side of some of this structure over here. Not as relevant right now, weirder things have happened in a day or so, but I'll be talking to you again on Friday to follow up with this and, take a look at where we are coming into middle of the month here. This, as I mentioned, a lot of people making a big deal about the big move up and big move down all in one candle that put in the high and the low thus far for the past, week or so. And then the big move down in the last 2 days, Monday into Tuesday, bear market and all this freaking talk. And a lot of it had to do with alts just absolutely getting destroyed on the move from Monday into Tuesday down. Some alts, dipped 20% on Monday and then another 20% on Tuesday. And I kind of want to reiterate that this is the reason why I've said, when Bitcoin does correct and when it has an even bigger correction, let's say a 20% correction, whenever that does occur, I hope you have a short list of projects, whether they're NFTs or altcoins or meme coins or whatever they are that you're interested. I hope you have a short list of what you want to pick up, evaluate their structure and their strength, see where they are in their chart in terms of support and resistance. And, there was a lot of really good opportunities in the market. I'll give you an example. A lot of people are like, well, the peanut narrative has kind of died down and the coin dipped really, really hard. Well, if you took a trade from Tuesday into the Wednesday session, you're up almost 30% on the wick, and if you're leveraged, even 3x, you're doing about 100% gains there or more. Um, yeah, so make sure that you're identifying the opportunities in the market when you see moves down and you see larger corrections in alts. And one of the reasons we saw a much larger correction in altcoins is because Bitcoin dominance shot up off a low. It is back down a little bit. I'll just kind of peruse a little bit of. We'll pick just ADA. I know that everybody's talking about ADA and XRP and all these fairly old coins at this point. This was a massive expansion. So correction like this is not anything too crazy. Was it very big? Yes, it was very big in terms of its corrective structure. But structure is still intact. In fact, higher lows are still intact. This is a 32% correction from wick to wick. And we'll pull up another one. Algo is another one that corrected in a big way that everybody was freaking out about. And oops, that's a fib. This was a 43.3% correction. And since that correction, if you took even just the Tuesday into Wednesday trade, if you managed to get in on Monday and maybe into the Tuesday session on the close open on that dip, you're up 25%. A lot of coins have done this. Does that mean that this is out of the woods? No, this is a trend reversal setup, right? We've got higher low, lower high, lower low. So, we'd be looking for, with a compression coming in, we'd be looking for consolidation, to be quite honest. But, you have to be on the lookout for lower highs, or this trend reversal setup gets broken right back to the upside on any closes back above this high at 52 cents. Now, I'm just using these as examples, but I guess we should do ETH, right? We can go to ETH. We can see on Femex, we'll do Bitstamp. Has a little bit more history. It's going to be, let's go to, I don't know why I have like the real shitcoin exchanges up here. We'll just use Femex. Who cares? But this did paint a lower low for ETH. Did close this low, I imagine, on bullish divergence. It did. We do need to be aware of bearish divergence on the other side, not just for altcoins, but for Bitcoin as well, upon any higher highs. But in this case, fairly big correction on ETH as well. We saw from wick to wick about a 15% correction. So seeing the outsized corrections, not out of the question here. From the Tuesday session into the Wednesday session, about 9, almost 10%. If you were to take it and you managed to catch the low, which some, did because they had orders placed or averaged in and got close to that low, about 11% up. If you were to let go of that position, yesterday or now, for instance, if you felt like it was a stopping point. Just want to illustrate that there's a lot of volatility. We've got stacks here, of course, nearly hitting my target to the upside on that daily expansion, mean reversion right back to a higher low structure now, coming off of this slightly higher low close and wick before the expansion up. But, as an example, just, wick to wick, 37%. And since that low, we've seen a move of 27% up. Solana's the same thing. So understand that we haven't even seen like a really, really violent, big, expansive correction on Bitcoin on the daily yet. And when that happens, we're going to see a lot of alts get absolutely stomped, waffle stomped, if you will, for those that that think that all alts and meme coins are shit coins. In this case, just keep an eye out for value. Look at structure. If Bitcoin is to break out to the upside, we're likely going to see a lot of these alts follow and run back to their highs. Maybe if they are in a downtrending structure, break right back to the upside, but then we have to look for higher lows from there. So even if you miss this one and it does break out past any lower highs, and we still have to look for higher lows from there. So there's opportunity that could present itself down the road here. And Bitcoin still hasn't initiated its full expansion, right? We need to see closes above the upper second that can also meet the additional criteria. Now that would be good for expansion up to the high and possibly higher, but for true expansion of volatility and the bands here, We need to see closes above the all-time high at this point, and any expansions to the downside, we're looking for that bigger correction, that 20% or more correction. And in this case, eyes on any moves back down around 92. You could even take yesterday's low at 95, 700, 800 area as, be getting a test down to this zone where the lows are. And then at the lows, if you start seeing 94, 220 dropped, especially on a daily close, then we're looking for probably a move back down to test, somewhere around $92,000, where the low came in here, where the close open is, where these highs are. Look for a test into that area, 90 to 92, and then eyes on, this low. If it's lost on a close, then we're looking for expansion deeper down into this support area around the upper the upper 80s. If that's lost, then we're looking mid to upper 80s as being a critical zone for Bitcoin to hold, or else it's going to correct very, very hard to the downside and prolong and on expansion get a move that's probably going to be a prolonged reaccumulation structure. That's all I got for you today. I guess that's not all I got for you. The last thing we should look at is this, and this is the trend line regression that I've been talking about on stochastic momentum here. We've got, Bitcoin kind of lost the more parabolic trend line here. And again, this is a regular stoch, so it's measuring close over close price momentum, not the velocity of RSI or the speed at which RSI is changing. In this case, we lost the first line, bumped down to the second one, and then we put in another higher low here. So it did not meet the criteria breaking down from this second trend line regression that we had on there, which that's the only place you're ever going to see me really using trend lines. Of course, we have the hidden bullish divergence that I pointed out. So that was good enough to get it back to the highs. Now we just need to see it complete and get out of this high side structure and go on the next expansive move to the upside. That'd be pretty cool. Where should we look in general? Let's go to the weekly here. Let's just pull the local structure real quick here, and we can see that, for the local accumulation structure, we're at the 1786. And realistically on the daily, we'd be looking around, 104 to 106 at this 188. Above there, I'm looking at probably intermediately like 108 to 110, and then 110 to this 2 spot up here at 112. In the more macro picture, we have the 125 of that more local reaccumulation structure fib pull at the about $125,000. I would be aware of even numbers at 120. But from the bear market, we're looking from wick to wick, the more macro fib level, because we're at one right now in terms of structure. We're at the 1272 at about 103,500. And this is where, we have to be aware of, getting above the 1272 in the more macro sense, especially on weekly and monthly closes, the 1414 up here. And actually, I didn't pull that fib exactly correct. I'm missing, I believe, the low 69 to 15 and a half. No, I guess it is correct here. Did I change something with my fibs? I did not, I don't think. Oh, well, yeah, it's about $128,000. I guess I did just correct it there. So 103, 645 is the 1272 and then on the more macro scale, we have the 128 to, I would say, about $130,000 at that 1414. And then we have the 1618 above there at $173,000, almost $174,000. Again, if Bitcoin were to initiate moves above the 1414, there's probably more local structure that we can pull, maybe even from this accumulation or the accumulation prior, that will give us some intermediate targets in between those more macro targets, probably coming in around 150, 145, 150 before approaching, something like a more macro 1618 at around 173 to 175. So definitely not out of the question. But we got to see actual expansion start to kick off for the next leg up. Will we see that this month? Remains to be seen. We'll check back with you on Friday. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. And I will note this actually real quick here. The 1.168 is right there at the bottom side of this higher low structure here. So we definitely don't want to see that lost in the more macro sense, especially on like a weekly. That would be pointing not just towards expansion to the downside on the daily, but a more aggressive correction on the weekly as well. But yeah, take care of yourselves. I'll talk to you again on Friday. Landy out.